Hey guys, I hope you're all doing very well, and I hope you all had a very good new year. And I hope that everything for the new year, you've got something new planned lined up. Unfortunately for me, that's gone all down the drain because I went outside for the new year for the first time and it was piss poor with rain in the UK. Probably no surprise if you live in that part of the world. And you're probably thinking, why have I gone out in the piss poor rain? And now I've just hibernated after literally just coming back. Well, it's because I went to the cinema and watched Nosferatu. Now, Nosferatu actually already came out earlier, just before the new year, in some territories. I think mainly in the US. And so far, the reception for that movie has been really, really positive. You know, people really love the movie based on its horror elements, its themes, its production, and also being a faithful adaptation for Dracula. Now, I haven't kept up with Dracula stories for a while, so this was kind of refreshing for me to get back into it. And I've just came back from the cinema watching it, and I could definitely say it was very, very good, and I really enjoyed it. Now, my biggest praise, I would say, with this film, because there are quite a lot of good compliments I have. The first one I have to say is the visuals and the production. It's honestly amazing, like an amazing set piece of just beautiful visuals, beautiful scenery. It's based on like a more of a gothic sort of setting in that sort of period, and man, they get the locations so perfectly well, and also a lot of the production and the costume designs for a lot of the actors as well as the characters in this movie are presented so well, and also the visuals were so amazing, even particularly when you see Count Orlok. Like, his presence is really, really good. Like, when you actually see him in the very much the dark shades or the shadows, it's honestly brilliant. So I really think the visuals and the production is a real standout in this movie. But not just the visuals and the production, but also just the horror elements. Like, most horror films, you kind of know what you get in terms of a jump scare or how it builds tension. But Nosferatu kind of builds tension in a way that is always has scenes that progresses in a way that there's already tension and there's already something that's going to go on, and then you're left with a very unexpected sort of thing that happens. And I think it's so refreshing that a horror movie can use elements like that feels very tense and gripping. And there were like times where I wasn't like jumping out of my seat, you know, completely scared, like, oh, boo-hoo. But you know, you really do have that sort of sense of adrenaline that really kicks in when you know where Count Orlok's presence is, or if any of the characters are in a very sort of dark, secluded environment where nothing really happens and things are just may seem like a bad turn, or in some cases where you would see Orlok's shadow lurking around that potentially might be a threat to somebody else. So I really think the horror elements, I really think they've nailed it with Nosferatu. And Bill Skarsgård absolutely crushes it as Count Orlok. Like, his presence is actually gives you so much adrenaline to actually go put you on the edge of your seat. Like, he is probably the best thing about this film. And you really don't know how predictable Count Orlok is. You never know, like, if he's just going to kill someone or, you know, bite or inflict his curse on anyone, or if it's just him trying to reason with anyone. Like, you never really know what you really get from Count Orlok, and I think Bill Skarsgård did such an amazing job portraying the character. And I also will say Nicholas Hoult and Lily Rose Depp also do very well. They play as the married couple, so Lily Rose Depp plays as the one of the married couples whose name is Ellen, and she has these sort of dreams that that Count Orlok or Nosferatu is lurking around her to protect her, essentially, and she now has this fear of death, and she kind of brings this attention to her husband Thomas, who's played by Nicholas Hoult, to kind of understand that Count Orlok is dangerous, is lurking around her, and she fears death. But he does some business to try and go to the house or the property where Count Orlok lives, and essentially he ignores her about the sort of the particular dangers of what could go on. And ever since he arrives to the house, everything goes wrong. and he gets into a lot of situations what Count Orlok does. And I don't really want to kind of spoil the rest of it because I think it would just ruin the film. But essentially, there's lots of twists and turns that happen. And I really think the whole acting performances do such an amazing job. And I really think that it does give a credit to the characters because there's not really so much like plotline character development per se. But I really do think to really understand their characters and their roles and what their relationships or their motivations are with other characters in this film actually do work with this movie pretty well. And it's pretty simple to understand from that perspective of like what goes on. But what I think wouldn't be so simple to everybody, and sometimes to myself, I do think the story is a little bit flawed in some of its pacing and structure. So some of its timeline structure doesn't really seem to connect very well, and there's always seems to be different events that happen at different times. And I think that's kind of one piece of criticism I have for this film, because not everything is structured in a way that you expect it to be. Like, there's lots of different timelines that happen throughout the film with different characters that progress through the movie. So I do think that was kind of like my little bit of a disappointment I had. And some of the pacing structure as well, there were like some scenes that did kind of drag a little bit and just were left as just essentially filler in some scenes. But that was like a pretty minor thing, I would say, from the film. But in general, I really enjoyed Nosferatu. I really have not many complaints about this film at all. And yeah, I think if you're a fan of horror films or you're a fan of the Dracula adaptations, novels, or anything within that sort of genre of gothic horror, I think honestly you will love this film. I don't think this is going to be a movie for everybody, but I certainly would recommend it. So yeah, let me know what you guys think of Nosferatu if you watched it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have, please like, comment, subscribe, dislike if you want to dislike. Thank you for watching, and a happy new year. And yeah, that's about it. See you later.